Well, if you've been a fan of the show ConQuest 200 or even been watching us on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, you've probably heard the name Kaiser. That's one of our breed bucks we have here on the farm. But let's go back and I want to show you literally what's happened to him through the first 3 years of his life.
He's wide. He's a nice typical 10 on this side. A little messed up on this side, but that happens as a yearling. But you can see the mass that he has, the webbing already started. And so I like that look also. So he's going to go into pen 1 and breed some does for us, and we'll see how he does.
This is actually Kaiser's first set. Now if you look, this side is very typical and very nice looking. This side though is kind of got an oddity, and he has some extra points. It almost like the beam went straight up and then really palmated. But if you look at him as a whole, the framework was there. Well, what's interesting, if you watch ConQuest 200, you can actually go back to the 3rd season. In some of those episodes, we actually show moving this yearling buck into the breed pen. This big sexy son, we're going to name him Kaiser, is the biggest of all the yearlings. Not balanced perfectly, but a lot of antler, and you can see that the shape, the frame is going to be there. I just had a hunch. This side is what I really had the hunch on, the nice typical frame. And that was a year he grew actually more antler and had a wider spread. He was really pretty wide. I mean, that's a pretty good looking yearling. And I thought he was worth taking a chance. So we actually put him in a breed pen as a 1-year-old, kind of as a backup buck. You know, just let's get a few things bred to him. Let's see how he turns out at 2.
Welcome to your new world, buddy. Go ahead, you do that. He's out cold.
We put him in the breed pen. It was just the yearling buck, and it had a tag number. How we pick names around here is a little unique. Karen actually comes up with a list of names, potential names, and then what we normally will do is we'll put that in the lunchroom, and all of the staff here at ConQuest Sense actually has a chance to vote and pick the name. And this buck actually ended up with the name Kaiser, which means Year of the King. Well, at 2, he really cleaned up. On this right side, which was so abnormal, he really became a perfect 5x5. Well, this is Kaiser at 2. Now you'll notice a lot bigger. And surprisingly, this right side really got a lot cleaner. Let's look at what his yearling set was. Now let's look at the side of his 2-year-old. So it did clean up. My hunch was correct. What still bothers me though is if you look, he has a split G2, a split G3, big split brow tine. So his left side is still much more non-typical than I want. But when you look at this and you gross him out, just a typical frame, he was the 2nd largest 2-year-old typical buck in the country last year. But this is what I still want to clean up. I still want to make it cleaner. If you look behind me, the picture behind me, that's Kaiser at 3. And again, you'll notice he's cleaned up. He got rid of his G2 split, smaller G3 split, much smaller brow tine split. Really has become a good typical looking buck. It's amazing that you can never tell what an adult buck is going to look like when he's a yearling. It's difficult at 2, but you start to get an idea. But at 1 year old, you cannot judge a buck of what he's going to be down the road. And Kaiser's a perfect example of a little bit messed up as a yearling, cleaned up a little bit as a 2-year-old, and really cleaned up and is really looking with a beautiful frame at 3 years old. He cleaned up quite a bit. This is the deer we've all been looking for on this farm. And we thought we had him in Bruce, and we did. And then God gave us even a better one. I mean, a bigger mainframe buck. He sheds his antlers, we get the antlers, and we take him to the national convention, the DEFA convention. Ironically, this year at 3 years old, Kaiser was just named the largest typical 3-year-old in the country by the NADEFA Antler Competition, and it's the Year of the King. So how ironic that this big yearling buck, but to me it's kind of abnormal, As a 1-year-old, unknowing, 3 years later turns out to be the largest typical buck in the industry on our farm that will be growing his 4-year-old set this coming spring.
They're getting a lot bigger too. Wow. Okay, he's impressive.
If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe. You can also follow us on social media, and also we have a live camera out in one of our deer pens that you can watch 24/7, and we'd love to have you watch what's happening on ConQuest Deer Farm.